Well, hello everyone. Welcome to CILC's Community of Learning. We're with our grades 3 through 4 for April 2nd. Just to let you know, our program today with Simply Extraordinary Tales is going to be all about presidents. I am going to have you know that at the bottom of the screen is your chat. You're going to be answering some questions in there. And also for this program, we're going to be polling you. So a poll is going to pop up on your screen. You're going to go ahead and answer that poll. You just got one, you're going to choose one answer, and then you're going to submit it, and we'll be able to see the answers and see how everyone's doing. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on over to my presenter. Go ahead and take it away.
Hi. Okay, my name is Rivka Willick, and I'm a storyteller. I'm dressed. Y'all can see how I'm dressed right now. I don't know if you can see the long skirt, but I'm dressed as you might see someone in colonial times during the beginning of America when our first presidents were presidents. What we're going to do is we're going to actually play a game. I'm calling it the President's Game, and I'm going to tell stories. I'm a professional storyteller, and a lot of people ask, are the stories you tell true? Well, if I tell folk tales or fairy tales, they're not true. They're old and they're fun. I sometimes do sci-fi stories. They're usually not true. But when I do historical stories, family stories, or personal stories, those are true. And today we're doing family presidential stories, so historical stories, but they have that kind of personal family element because we're not going to tell the heavy duty history. We're going to kind of tell fun stuff that lets us see that our presidents were people. So the questions, the challenges I'm going to give you are all about stories about our presidents, but some of them are kind of silly. And I think it's important we realize that the people that lead us, whether it's our teachers, our presidents, our governors, that they're people. Sometimes they make mistakes, sometimes they're really amazing, and sometimes they're just silly. So that's where we're going to start. And the rules go like this. I don't expect you to know everything about the presidents. Matter of fact, you can be part of this game if you know nothing about the American presidents, but you do need to listen because in each story there are clues. There's different clues. When you see the names of the presidents listed, when we show them to you, you'll see their names, and then you'll also see the dates. So if, for example, in the story, there was something about a president in a car, well, you know it wouldn't be a long time ago because we didn't have cars then. If the president's in the train, again, it wasn't right at the beginning, but we don't ride trains too much anymore, so it's probably more in the middle, in the kind of mid-1800s to early 1900s. If someone's related, check out their names. Is their name related to another name that you can kind of figure out? So within the story, there's going to be those clues that have to do with their names, with sometimes in the story, I'll tell you what they didn't do. And by knowing what they didn't do, you can exclude all the other presidents. So it's not only a history game, it's a listening game, and it's a game of logic, using the clues that you hear to answer the questions. Okay, are we ready? Okay, number one, are you not going to see your choices until the end? So at the end of each story, we will post the poll questions, and you're going to pick one of the 5. And our first story today is one of my favorites. It's called The American Version of the Emperor's New Clothes. You might have heard the story by Hans Christian Andersen of The Emperor's New Clothes. Well, that was a made-up story. This one is supposed to be real. Matter of fact, not now, don't cheat, but now you can go to the White House website, I think, the president's website, where they have historical stories and facts, and you'll find it there. So here we go. Way back, not at the beginning, but pretty way back when the presidents were new, and the White House was, after it had been built, there hadn't been bathrooms installed yet. Matter of fact, there wouldn't be bathrooms installed for a long time. So when the presidents or anyone else wanted to bathe, they had to find other ways of doing it. And there was one president. Matter of fact, many people think he was the smartest man to ever be president. He was so smart and so proper and so right. You ever know someone like that? That's who's so perfect that sometimes you kind of resent it? Well, people did resent him a bit. But he was perfect, and he did everything exactly right. Matter of fact, every morning, if the weather was good, he would walk out of the White House, down the streets, all the way down to the Potomac River, take off all his clothes, go into the river, wash himself, dry himself off, put his clothes back on, climb back up the hill, wave at people as he went back home, go into the White House, and start his work. But one day, just like any other day, as long as the weather was good enough, he went down to the Potomac River, took off his clothes, bathed himself, climbed back up, and his clothes were gone. Someone had taken the president's clothes. Nobody knew who. We still don't know who. It could have been a kid. It could have been a reporter. It could have been anyone who didn't like him. But whoever took them, they were all gone. So what was he going to do? But he was such a proper man. He did nothing wrong. It wasn't his fault his clothes were gone. So he kept his shoulders back, probably took some leaves or branches, covered himself the best he could, and walked all the way back, waved at his people as he went. Probably walked a little faster than normal, walked all the way back. His father would have been proud of him. After all, his father had also been president of the United States. I think his father might have been proud. I don't know. But he went back in and didn't miss a meeting, found new clothes, and continued his day as president of the United States. Okay, there's a lot of clues in there. Let's see if you can figure out who the president is. Tammy, you want to put up the poll for number 1?
Perfect, I got it up. So the American version of the Emperor's New Clothes. So do you think it's George Washington, 1789 to 1797, John Adams, 1797 to 1801, James Madison, 1809 to 1814, John Quincy Adams, 1825 to 1829, or Harry S. Truman, 1949 to 1953. So we have one president that looks like he's getting the clear winning right now, but only about 50% of my students have voted. So poll is up. Go ahead and put in the poll what you think the answer will be. Yeah, we'll give you a little bit more time. Pull it down in about 5 seconds. So here's your chance to get in. So 5, 4, 3, 2. I can see a couple of people putting in the chat too. Put it in the poll so you get your vote right. 1. We're going to end it.
Okay.
And are you ready for me to share the results?
Yeah.
See if they got it.
Looks like the majority of you guys got it. It was John Quincy Adams. And one of the big clues was his father had also been president. So if you had looked and you had seen that he had the same last name as John Adams, you would have known that his father had been president. Okay, let's go on to question number 2. Was that fun? I had fun. All right, we'll take down the poll and we'll go to a great story about a girl, 11-year-old girl named Grace Bedell. Here we go. Now, she was just 11 years old. And lots of times, kids will sometimes think, well, what I do doesn't matter. But this story shows that what you do sometimes matters a lot. All right, here we go. Grace Bedell was 11 years old, and her father had just gotten back from seeing the presidential campaign. We're in a presidential campaign right now. There's people running and trying to become president. Well, that has happened every 4 years. Every 4 years we have an election. And Grace's father had gone, and he was so impressed with this man who was running for president. He was so impressed because this man, well, for one thing, he didn't think slavery was right, and he wasn't afraid to talk about it. So Grace decided to write a letter. And this is the letter she wrote. I'm going to read exactly what she wrote. She said, "My father has just come home from the fair and brought home your picture. I am a little girl, only 11 years old, but I want you to know that you should be president of the United States. I very much hope so. And you won't think me too bold to write such a great man as you. Have you any little girls about as large as I am? If so, give them my love and tell her to write to me. And if you cannot answer this letter, I got 4 brothers, and part of them will vote for you anyway. And if you will, let your whiskers grow, if you will grow a beard. Well, I will try the rest to get the rest of them to vote for you. You would look great with a beard. My father's going to vote for you, and if I was a man, I would vote for you, but I will try to get everyone to vote for you that I can. I think that rail fence around your picture makes it look nice. I got a little baby sister. She is 9 weeks old and just as cunning as can be. And she goes on to say she thinks the women would encourage their husbands to vote for him if he had a beard. And this is the amazing thing. This man did not have a beard until that letter. And he wrote back a letter to Grace Bedell, which you can look for on the internet. And he actually says he doesn't have any little girls, just has sons, and he'll think about growing a beard. And wouldn't you know it, he grew a beard. Matter of fact, most of the presidents of the United States did not have beards, but this one did. So if you can think of pictures of presidents that might have a beard, there's also a clue about what he was fighting against. If you can think of all those things, I think you can get the right answer. So here we go. Let's put up the poll. There we go.
The poll is up. So you have a choice between Thomas Jefferson, 1801 to 1809, Andrew Jackson, 1829 to 1837, Abraham Lincoln, 1861 to 1865, Woodrow Wilson, 1913 to 1921, or President Harry S. Truman, 1945 to 1953. So I see a couple of you putting down in the chat who you think it is. Don't forget to also go to the top of your screen and click on who you'd vote for. Now, when I'm done with the poll, end it, and then I'll give you the answers when I relaunch it and let you see those answers. If for some reason the poll stays up, if you go to the top of that box that we're on and you click on the little X out, it'll drop the box away but not take you out of the event. So just exit out of the little poll box if you need to. There is a clear winner showing up here. I think you might be right. Joey, Elaine, Michael, Ben, and Charlie, don't forget to choose your poll. So make sure you vote in there. Don't just tell me, I want you to get it right in the poll also. So put it in there. I know all of you so far have been putting the right answer. So go ahead and put it in the poll. Angela had it right too. She told me the answer. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and end that poll. Looks like majority of you have voted in. We're gonna end it. And we'll be able to put up the results in just one moment. Let me know when you want me to share the results.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, here they are. There's a clear winner this time.
And we got it right, Abraham Lincoln. And one of the big clues is he was against slavery. And another big clue was that he had a beard. I don't know how many guys had beards, but he certainly did. I'm gonna put this up. And you'll notice I changed my clothes. And this is the kind of clothing you might see during Abraham Lincoln's time. As you can see, it's made out of something called homespun. It's very coarse. The material is very coarse. And of course, women back then always covered their heads. So here we go. I'm going to dress just to honor the last president we talked about as we do the next story. You guys are doing great. All right. This one I call the nature lover. And this is a little bit harder, but I think you might be able to get it. And again, listen carefully because there's a clue embedded. It isn't just about the time, it's about his name as well. Okay, this president, when he was just a little boy, was very sick. He had asthma. Now, a lot of kids have asthma now, but we have different medicine. Then there wasn't medicine. Matter of fact, this is kind of amazing. One of the things the doctors told him to do as a little boy was to smoke. They thought maybe that would help. Of course, it doesn't. But they didn't know. They tried all sorts of things to help him get healthier and healthier. But he had really bad asthma and he didn't go to school. He kind of homeschooled. He was home all the time. And when he was home, he would look out and see nature. And nature was so beautiful. He loved the birds. He loved the animals. And he would draw pictures of them. Eventually he wrote. He even wrote stories. One of his books, one of his most famous books that people still sometimes read, is about the War of 1812. That was a long time before him, but he would see the world and he would draw pictures and he would write about it. And eventually his father decided to make him start riding horses, and he got stronger and stronger. And he eventually at one point even became a cowboy. Isn't that amazing? I think that's amazing for a kid who was told he was sick and couldn't leave, became a cowboy and was sort of seen as the most robust of all our presidents. When he became president, every now and then people would invite him to do things. And one thing that was really popular back then was to go hunting. They didn't have supermarkets at this point. They probably had some stores, but not a lot of supermarkets, nothing like that, not yet. So people would hunt and they'd farm for their food. And because he was kind of so famous for all of his adventures, one day a group invited him to go out west and do a bear hunt. Then he went to hunt the bear, and there were reporters following him around, and they couldn't find any bears. And the people who invited him out wanted him to, like, well, you know, feel good about it. So they told him to go over look by the tree. Someone had caught a baby bear and tied it to a tree because they wanted the president to be able to, you know, think he could shoot a bear. But this president was he was a cowboy, and he didn't like that. He said, I'm not going to go shoot this poor little bear, this poor little bear who's sick. And so they took care of the bear. Some people say that because he was so sick, they humanely let the baby bear go to sleep. Other people said he might have just been released. But there was a reporter who heard about it. And he wrote a newspaper article, and the whole country heard about it. And man started making little bears that we call teddy bears, named after the president. Well, from that point on, everyone called these little stuffed bears after the guy's name. I think I gave away way too much. I think you can get this one pretty easily. Okay, time for the poll.
Sounds great. I had a couple of them. We're putting the answer in the chat. Let's see if they're going to get it right this time, or if the president they put in is there. So you have a choice between Thomas Jefferson, 1801 to 1809, Teddy Roosevelt, 1901 to 1909, Herbert Hoover, 1929 to 1933, John F. Kennedy, 1961 to 1963, or Bill Clinton, 1993 to 2001. I see a couple of you are putting it in the chat. Chris, Aubrey, Ben, Adrian, Angela, Mason. Don't forget to vote in the poll. Michael also, please go ahead and vote in the poll. Who you think it is? There is a clear winner here.
I think I gave away it. I should have just said stuffed bear, I think, but.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and in the poll. I'm gonna share out those results.
And the answer, most of you guys got it right. It's Teddy Roosevelt. Although those who said John F. Kennedy and Bill Clinton, well, they both did things to help our environment. They both passed environmental bills. So that would have been an educated guess if you knew that. Okay, number 4. This one is called Lifesaver. You know, a lot of presidents are known for the jobs they did before they became president. Some of the presidents were military men, generals who led different battles or wars. Some of our presidents were known for being diplomats and even writers. One of our presidents was known for trying to change laws that he thought were right or wrong by becoming a community organizer, changing by having the community come out and protest things that were wrong. But the president in this story isn't any of those. This guy had jobs. One of them made him pretty famous, but the job we're going to start with was his very first job. The first job he ever did, and I think initially he wasn't even paid, was to be a lifeguard. He was a lifeguard and he helped all sorts of people. Matter of fact, they said, or he kept count, he saved a lot of lives. You know, as a lifesaver by a pool or beach, you see someone who's having a hard time, well, the lifeguard would jump in to the water and pull the person out. And he had saved a lot of people. But this story isn't about a person he saved. It's about a pair of false teeth. See, there was an older man who was swimming, and the teeth in his mouth fell out. And he was so upset he couldn't find them. So he went over to the lifeguard and he said, "Will you help me find my teeth?" Well, this fella, who would later be president of the United States, well, he was a young guy at that point. He dove in once and he couldn't find the teeth, and he dove in twice and he couldn't find the teeth. He dove in 3 times and finally he found the teeth. And the old man was so excited and so grateful that he pulled out a $20 bill and gave it to him. And that was the first time he had ever been paid. But it wouldn't be the last. Later on, this fellow would become a movie star. Later on, a spokesperson. And finally, President of the United States. Okay, I gave you a lot of clues. Let's see if we can figure out this one.
Sounds great. I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll to my attendees. So here is our 4th poll for our story about the lifesaver. We have John Adams, 1797 to 1801. You have Abraham Lincoln, 1861 to 1865. Do you think it is Dwight D. Eisenhower, 1953 to 1961? Ronald Reagan, 1981 to 1989? Or Barack Obama, 2009 to 2017? Take your time, think about those clues that you have. Put them in the, so we have a lot of good guesses coming in. We have a leader, but not as much as in the past. This one should be interesting. Don't forget to put those results right into the chat or into the poll. Didn't have anyone enter them into the chat. Great. I want to make sure everyone that. So keep on thinking about it. I'm going to go ahead and poll. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end our results. And I do apologize. Okay.
I am back with yet another outfit, which you might have seen when this fellow was in the movies, when he was a movie star. And I think a lot of people got this one too. Oh, if you didn't know, he was.
Sorry,
we're on
shared the wrong one. Share results. There we go. Back to the right one.
Yeah, lifesaver. Okay, if you didn't know that Ronald Reagan was a movie star, you might have known that these other guys had those other jobs that I had missed, that I listed. Barack Obama was a community organizer. Eisenhower was a general. John Adams was a diplomat. So we got some sense, but you did a great job. I think the majority of these, maybe I'll make them too easy. I don't know. Let's go this time for something a little bit different. Let's do a story about the first ladies. You know, just like the presidents are important, the first ladies are important too. To the point that when a first lady, the wife or the spouse, it can be a husband, suppose if the president is a woman, they actually pick causes that they're going to follow and do. But this first story about our first lady is actually about a heroic thing she did during the time her husband was president. You see, there was a war that happened on in America. Now, there's been a couple wars that have actually hit us. World War II happened in Hawaii, but this one actually came right up to the White House. Matter of fact, the British had attacked us. and they were marching to the White House, and they were going to burn it down. And the president sent a message to his wife saying, you have to get out, get the most important papers, and leave. And she and the White House staff all gathered the stuff together, and they were beginning to run away. And then she looked up, and she saw the picture of George Washington on the wall. And she thought, oh, we can't leave this. So she asked one of the people who helped her to climb up on the table, and he cut the picture of George Washington out of the frame, rolled it up, and gave it to her. She put it under her arm, and that's the very last thing she did before she got in the wagon and rushed away. They were only minutes away before the British got there. But because of her heroism, we still have that painting. And if you go to Washington, I believe it's in the Washington Art Museum in Washington, D.C., Smithsonian, you can still see it. So who was the first lady who saved the portrait of George Washington?
Okay, everyone, get ready. Your poll is going to be launched in just a second. So poll 5 is the art rescue. It's gone out. So who do you think it is? Martha Washington, 1789 to 1979. Dolly Madison, 1809 to 1814. Mary Todd Lincoln, 1861 to 1865. Eleanor Roosevelt, 1933 to 1945. Or Lady Bird Johnson, 1961 to 1965. And I can see it. Because some of you saying you got them all right so far. Some of you saying you haven't gotten any right so far. But here's your chance to use those clues. We're going back and forth in here. There's 2 that are competing for that top spot. We're going to give it a couple more moments. Going back and forth. Ooh, this one's a tight race. I think you might have tricked him with this one.
I think so.
Give it about another 5 seconds for those in attendance. Okay, and we're going to end that poll. We're going to share out those results, not by much.
But it wasn't Martha Washington. No, actually, the White House hadn't been built for George Washington. He and Martha never lived in the White House. It was Dolly Madison during the War of 1812. So that was your second choice. The second choice, yep, is so, although you all voted for Martha Washington, you heard Washington's name, it was actually Dolly Madison. Okay. That one was tough. Maybe the first ladies are tougher than the presidents. Okay, this next one might be the toughest one of all. So I want y'all to listen really carefully. And if you don't get it, don't worry about it. It's just for fun. It's called the bathtub. This president, many people believe, and I do too, that he was the biggest president we ever had. He weighed the most. And by this time, unlike the time with John Quincy Adams, where there wasn't a bathtub, there were bathrooms in the White House when he was president. But the bathroom for the president had a small bathtub. And this fellow was very big. And so he ordered new bathtubs. Matter of fact, he ordered one bathtub that was so big, and I'll show you a picture of it, that 4 men could fit in it. They believed that this bathtub was used in case he went on a ship, because the water would splush out of the tub. After he got the bathtub, and they started showing this picture in the newspapers, people started laughing at the president. And some people believe this is one of the reasons he wasn't reelected for a second term. He only was president for 1 term. All right, that's a really tough one. It made Teddy Roosevelt sad because Teddy Roosevelt had asked him to be his vice president and encouraged him to be president. So that's a lot of clues. Let's see if we can get the man with a very big bathtub.
Okay, so I've just launched the poll for the bathtub. You have a choice between James Monroe, 1817 to 1825, James K. Polk, 1845 to 1849, William Taft, 1909 to 1912, Richard Nixon, 1969 to 1974, or President Jimmy Carter, 1977 to 1981? So who do you think it is? Go ahead and put those answers into the chat, or into the poll, not into the chat. So Trisha, go ahead and make sure you vote in the poll.
You guys are doing great.
Yes, Aubrey can't choose between two. Addie thinks it's another one. Addie, don't forget to put it in the poll who you're going to vote for. Keep on going. You got about 5 seconds before I pull it down. Okay, time's up. I'm doing the poll.
Okay, you guys got this one right. The majority, it was William Taft. And he was our biggest president, at least weight-wise. All right, we're kind of running short on time. I'm going to give one more in here. So I'm going to skip right to number 8. And this one is called The Penknife. There were a lot of stories given about this president that were made up, that were not real. But this story seems to have been real. So I'm going to share it with you. You see, this president, when he was young, just a kid, his mother and father had asked him to do a job, and he thought it was just too big. He had an older brother. He thought maybe he would do the job. But it was just too much for him. And he told his mom, I don't think I can do it. And so she said, go and do it anyway. Go try, just keep doing it. And he did. And the first day was hard, and the second day was hard, but the third day was easier. And after 5 days, he finished. And so his mother gave him a penknife. It's like a jackknife. And in it, she carved the words, always listen to your superiors. Because the people, your bosses, your parents, whoever it is, won't give you jobs you can't do. Believe in them, and they'll believe in you. He then became the general of the Revolutionary War, and he was about to quit. He was writing a letter of resignation saying he can't do this anymore. And it was right then that a friend of his pulled out the penknife that George Washington always kept in his office and put it in front of him. And he said, read this. Always listen to your superiors. And the Congress, they all think you can do this. I think you can do this, but the Congress thinks you can do this. So maybe you'll reconsider quitting. And the next day he tore up the letter of resignation, and he continued to be the general of the Revolutionary War. Okay, let's see if you know this one.
Okay, I'm going to start that poll up. We're going to launch poll number 8, the penknife. So it's up there. So you have a choice between George Washington, 1789 to 1797, James Madison, 1809 to 1814, Abraham Lincoln, 1861 to 1865, Woodrow Wilson, 1913 to 1921, or Franklin D. Roosevelt, 1933 to 1945. Angela, don't forget to put it in the poll. Aubrey, put it in the poll. So you get your votes in. Don't just tell me, tell everyone else who you think it is. I want to make sure you get your votes in.
Okay. We're doing great.
I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. We're going to close it. And we're done. I'm going to share the results out.
And most of you guys got this one right too. It is George Washington. Okay, you guys did great. I don't know if you knew history, or you're good at problem solving, or you just love stories and you're great listeners, but you've been a great audience. If we keep doing this, I'll come up, hopefully, if this goes on and we're all stuck in our homes for a lot longer, maybe we'll do a second set of presidential game challenges. You guys did great, but before I leave, we have a couple minutes. Are there any questions? And Tammy, did you have fun?
I did. So I had lots of fun. I love history questions, especially about the president. So there's a lot of fun for me. Let's see if anyone had any questions so far.
And I love knowing that even the people we look up to make mistakes, and they're all human.
Yep. So Oh, someone's asking, this is a good question. Where can I find president stories?
Well, once your schools get open, almost every school library has a whole section of presidential stories. And if you come to my, I'm trying to think of how to do this. Maybe I can send it to Tammy. I can give you a list of books. You can also just go online. I'm at Simply Extraordinary Tales. I'll open up a page, give me a day, and I'll list some of my favorite books for presidential stories. But we can also post it here, maybe as soon as I get the list together. But you can also go right onto your computer. You can type in presidential stories. There's a great book about presidential animals. A lot of presidents, one of my favorite guy with stories is John Quincy Adams. He was given an alligator when he was president. So a lot of really funny stories about presidential animals. The kids all have stories, lots of cool stuff. Great question.
Yeah, it's a good one. Here's another one. Do you think we will ever have a girl as a president?
I think so, or a woman. You have to be at least 35 years old, but I think absolutely. I think it's going to happen soon. A lot of people thought, actually, this will be, I'm not going to give this away because it will be, if we do this again, I'll put this in, but we never thought we'd have a Black president. And one of our presidents was severely disabled. And he used to hide it so people wouldn't know. And if you're interested, I'm not going to give that away. That might be, if we do this again, that will be another story. But he had to hide it. There's only one picture of him that you'll see when he was president, where you can see that he had to walk with crutches or in a wheelchair.
Here's another one. Do you have a favorite story about a certain president?
The first one I told I love because, Hans Christian Andersen made up the story of the Emperor's New Clothes, but John Quincy Adams actually lived it. I mean, he actually walked, imagine that, the President of the United States walked through Washington, D.C. without any clothes on because they had stolen his clothes. I think that's pretty funny. And he wasn't, and the story goes that he did it, without shame. He realized this wasn't my mistake. I'm going to do what I can to get back, but I'm not going to be ashamed of it.
Here's another one is, who is your favorite president?
I think as a storyteller, the one who has the most stories is probably Teddy Roosevelt, because he really was a cowboy. He has some really sad stories, some amazing stories. If you ever want to know a really sad story about a president, you can Google Teddy Roosevelt and Valentine's Day.
That is an amazing story. I would definitely encourage the students to look at that. If you ever have a chance to go on a trip, once we're all allowed to leave our houses, or even go do a little research now, you can go to the Teddy Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota. It is amazing to go look at everything there. And that's where President Teddy Roosevelt kind of went to gather his thoughts and rejuvenate after those hard times.
Yeah, and you could also go to New York. You can see his apartment in Manhattan, or in a little bit outside of the city, you can see Teddy Roosevelt's house, which is right next to a bird preserve, because he really was a nature lover. He's the guy who started the national park system. So yeah, pretty neat stuff. Matter of fact, if you like a president, you can find things that they left across the country. Go to the birthplace. Abraham Lincoln's birthplace is a little cabin in Kentucky, still there.
And for those of you that are joining us and watching this on the recording, I will make sure to put the website into your website, Rivka, into the description at the bottom so they can figure out where you are.
Yeah, and one last thing, when we're out of our homes, Simply Extraordinary Tales, I and my daughter go around, we tell stories like this, we tell story with instruments and all sorts of fun stuff, along with other storytellers, with other businesses. So if you love hearing stories, there's a lot of different ways to tell stories, to hear stories, and you can tell them yourselves. So I really encourage you to reach out, listen to storytellers, and practice your own storytelling.
So I went ahead and put that in the chat for everyone that has joined us, but I will also put that into the description in our YouTube video.
Okay, and I'll put that on my website probably within hopefully 24 hours. We'll have a list of presidential stories.
Yes. Great. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Rivka, for joining us. We had a great time. We're going to start our next program in about 5 minutes. So at this time, before we go to our next program with OIDA International, you might want to go ahead and stand up and take a little break, stretch your legs,
Drink some water.
drink some water. Get ready. So we're going to be starting up in a little bit with just eye opener, The Beauty of Africa at 12:45 Eastern time. So you got about, like I said, a little under 5 minutes. Go ahead and stand up, stretch your legs, and then we will get ready to start. Rivka, thank you so very much.
Bye-bye.